Hey everyone, it's Kevin Dewalt of Prolego. Every large enterprise has the challenge of coming up with a large language model or generative AI strategy because the technology is changing so fast. The traditional large company approaches of talking to people and coming up with ideas and building this gigantic PowerPoint deck that you would use to execute on for a couple of years, that's just not going to work anymore because things change too fast and the fundamental breakthroughs are so impactful that they completely change what your opportunities or the competitive threats. So you need a new way of developing strategy that allows you to be more adaptive. Fortunately, you can borrow a model that works from another domain, and that is the US military. The US military has a principle called the OODA loop, which they can use in situations where that are dynamic, difficult to predict, and you have to very quickly make decisions to execute faster. And the military teaches principles like you have to stay inside the opponent's OODA loop, which means you're able to take in information and make faster decisions than they can. So what does OODA stand for? It stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. I'm not going to walk through each one of them because they're probably obvious from the context and you can read about it online. But let's talk about how it might apply to doing AI and generative model strategies. Well, late last year, Q3, Q4, you went through your annual budgeting process, right? Everybody loves the annual budgeting process where you have a lot of meetings, make a lot of paper, fight and argue for 6 weeks and try to predict what's going to happen next year. Your company takes this up, they submit it, and they come down from the top and let you know what's funded, what's not funded, and how much money you have. Then you start executing throughout the year. Well, that has always been a very frustrating process because it's been very difficult to predict what you're going to need based on rapidly changing technology and business needs. But now it's become almost impossible because situations like what happened on March 14th, where OpenAI announced GPT-4 and suddenly the world changed. And a lot of what you were talking about you've historically done is now obsolete and you have to react. So how will the OODA process work for if you rethink how your budgeting and planning cycles work using some of the methodologies from the US military? Well, first you would observe. GPT-4 came out, you got to watch the videos, learn about it, learn about the use cases, try to understand what's happening. Orient, you're going to have to look around your organization and figure out how do we apply this technology? What are the big use cases? Which business customers are going to be most impacted? How are competitors likely to react pretty quickly? So that orientation phase is critical for the next step, and that is deciding. And of course, this is where a lot of companies really struggle because they're not set up to make decisions and people don't like making decisions with imperfect information. Unfortunately, you just don't have a choice because things are happening too fast and you're never going to have all the information you need to make a decision. That's why you want to make quick, incremental decisions that don't make massive commitments to preserve your optionality. And the final step, A, is act. Again, this is where big companies often struggle because action and execution can be very difficult because of a lot of the organizational constraints. So if you're going to adopt a policy or a methodology like OODA, you need to plan for the act phase. You can start taking steps like having a dedicated development environment where you have data and you've got a more relaxed security and access policy so you can bring in new tools and capabilities and use resources like OpenAI's API to test out new ideas. So that's the OODA loop mentality. Of course, I realize none of this is easy, and your organization is not set up for it, and leadership's not comfortable with it, and I get all this. But truthfully, what choice do you have? What direction is this going? I've had a couple of clients recently comment to me that they said, man, I can't wait until things settle down and it gets a little more stable so maybe we can figure out how to plan. I had to tell them, are you crazy? Things are not going to slow down. We have entered in a new phase of acceleration. The breakthroughs are going to keep coming faster and faster. This is the new normal. And so you're not going to be able to be successful adapting to 21st technology if we're using 19th century strategies for planning. So we don't have a choice. I know it's challenging, but you can do it, and this is the direction the world's going. Have a great day.